Well, hi everyone. For being here for our yoga webinar about our kids yoga teacher training. And I feel like kids yoga is so different than adult yoga that we have a lot of myths to counteract. So hopefully that's what we're here to do, is to give you some knowledge about what kids yoga is like and why we would do it with kids, and give you a broader perspective about how we would do a yoga class with or for kids. So first of all, there's a lot of different places you can find us. We'll make sure you have this PowerPoint so that you can connect with us, but it seems like we're just about everywhere. Lenora is connected with Peaceful Warriors, so I'll let her talk about that in a little bit, but the link is here if you are interested in that and want to participate in any way. Oops, too fast. So who are we? So my name is Jan Pratt, and gosh, I am not really good with dates, but I think that I started Omtastic Yoga about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And for a while, we had a brick and mortar location, and our philosophy was to work on bringing yoga to kids and families. We noticed, or I noticed, I've been a school teacher in the public schools for many years, and I noticed that kids were struggling with resilience and emotional control, and the numbers for anxiety and depression are climbing. Lots of kids in schools are on medication for a variety of reasons. They can't sit still in class, they have ADHD, they are autistic or on the spectrum, lots of reasons why kids are on medication. And I had done a ton of teacher trainings for yoga. And every time I went to one of these trainings, I thought, this is why kids need yoga. This is going to help them, whatever it was. It may have been from an adult perspective, but I really felt like kids could benefit from all the tools that I was learning. So that's why the studio was born. And Lenora and I were kind of doing some of the same things at the same time, which is how we connected. We were both working in schools doing some after school yoga programs, and we teamed up and thought, wow, let a team makes more sense than competing against each other. So we formed Omtastic Yoga, and later to become a nonprofit division of that was Peaceful Warriors. So Lenora, you want to talk a little bit about your journey?
Sure. I started yoga teacher training when I was already past 50, and just thought I wanted to share yoga with adults and people maybe who thought it was too late to start something like yoga. I'm too old, I'm too inflexible, too whatever. And as I progressed in my yoga journey, I realized how much it helped me, how very helpful it was in just general life situations. So I thought I was going to take training and then teach people my age and older. And and I did. And what happened though was that everybody I taught, everybody I came in contact with in the yoga world mentioned at some time or another that they wished that they had had this earlier in their life. Like 100% of the people had said that, like, oh, I could have used this breathing technique when I was a teenager. I could have used this when I was competing in sports. I could have used this. So it became clear to me that we need to get this into the children's heads and into their routine before we have to teach a whole new routine. Like, we come as broken adults instead of as strong children to yoga, and it's already a part of their day instead of having to learn something new. So that's what led me to children's yoga. And then as we went a little deeper with that, we noticed that there were, big gaps in what schools could do after school programming and what schools couldn't. So we formed a nonprofit to help students pay for scholarships, give them scholarships towards towards yoga after school so that it was more of an equal playing field. Everybody had a chance to do it. And then we noticed how much of a gap there is in the elderly community, especially during COVID and after. The isolation was really affecting people, and they really needed more contact with the outside world. So we started bringing yoga to senior residences and senior centers. And then it just kind of grew from there, with Peaceful Warriors being a nonprofit that basically serves the non-yogis of the world. It basically serves people who need yoga, but or would benefit from yoga, but don't necessarily have access to a studio or finances for a studio or whatever it might be, whatever might be holding them back. So we say that we reach the underserved population. So that's where we are now, and we are teaching in schools, in senior residences, preschools, daycares, even mental health hospitals, and just kind of keep going from there. We have more interest with veterans. We have more interest with other populations, with educators, with disabled population. So there's no shortage of people that need us, but there is a shortage of teachers working with us. So that's one of the reasons that we're promoting the one of our trainings, because there's actually jobs, paying jobs, ready to be taken, ready to be yours or whoever's going to take the training. So, and that's where we are now.
So that was a big shift for us, was from actually doing the physical teaching to training teachers how to teach kids yoga. And it's been a great journey. And like Lenora said, that especially in the Colorado Springs area, which is where we're located and Peaceful Warriors is located, there is a need for kids yoga teachers. And there's a demand in the schools also, because they are requiring social emotional curriculum and learning for kids on a daily basis. And yoga tools fit right into that social emotional learning. I teach some professional development classes for Colorado teachers, and they're using these tools on many times on a daily basis in their morning meetings. So this is a program that is great for school teachers or preschool teachers or parents who want to learn more about tools that they can bring to their kids. It's for anybody that has a connection with kids. It could be a gym program, a sports program, a coach. All of these tools are applicable in all of those settings across the board. So it's not
And
just
also
limited.
medical and therapeutic and counseling. There's a big need there as well. And that's a perfect fit for yoga and mental health.
So if you know anybody that's working with kids, um, of course, please share this information with them, because our ultimate goal is to make the lives of children better. And if it could be with one breath or one pose or one thing that they remember from a class that a yoga class they've been to, then I feel like we've accomplished our goal if we make the life of one child better. So what is this kids yoga thing? So I think the whole premise that might be totally different from an adult yoga class is that we're all about fun. And that's how kids learn best, is when they're happy and they're playing and they're engaged with each other. I don't know if I've ever been in a kids yoga class that was quiet for 45 minutes. How about you, Lenora?
Maybe 45 seconds we have quiet when we listen to a bell or when we're in Shavasana, but rarely is it quiet. It's got to be different. It's got to be a different class, obviously, because they're different ages and abilities than adults. But the point is not to make it a gym class. The point is to make it follow principles of yoga and, and kind of encourage them to play for sure, but we're also teaching them stuff. So it's a little bit deeper than just sports, although certainly has sports stuff in it. And it also is a really great companion to sports, but it's different than just an exercise class because we try to stay true to the principles of yoga.
So in our typical class, we're going to do some kind of opening activity. We always include a breath. We do lots of movement, maybe some stories in with the movement. We're going to do some discussion, talking about why we're doing this, and then a relaxation at the end and some type of closing. So our yoga dance party is a perfect example of something we might do at the beginning of class. And so in a yoga dance party, what we found is that, especially in after school yoga, kids are coming right from a day where they've been sitting for hours. You know, they may have gym or they may have music and they may be moving around the classroom, but the majority of the time they've been doing this sit and get. Their brains are tired, their nervous systems are frazzled, and they have tons of energy. So one of our big philosophies is that we need to meet the kids where they are in their energy level. And so a yoga dance party is perfect. We put on a great big fun song. We get everybody up and moving around the room safely or dancing. And then all of a sudden we shut the music off. We yell out a yoga pose and everybody might freeze in mountain pose and take a deep breath. And then the music starts again and they get all their energy out, all their wiggles, and then we shut off the music and call out another yoga pose. So maybe the next yoga pose is tree pose. And we all freeze in tree pose, take a deep breath in and breathe it out. So this might be a great opening activity if you get a group of kids that are coming in that is super high energy. And not to mention the fact that kids love this activity and ask for it over and over and over. Can we do a yoga dance party? So from here, we can take a look at our class plan template. And if you would like copies of this, we'll be glad to get them to you. And it's kind of what I talked about before. We have some yoga curriculum that make planning your yoga classes really easy. We're really super excited. One of those is almost up on Amazon. I think this week that it's going to go live and you'll be able to get it through Amazon. But you can also order these lesson plans from the website, also from Omtastic Yoga's website. And each one of our lesson plans are 6 weeks long, and each week goes through this template, so to speak. And you're welcome to use this plan for yourself. It works really well for us. We have a blank version of this where you can just fill in what's your class opening. We love themes. So, the class might be about space, or it might be about seeds growing, or it might be about gratitude. What are some other common themes that kids like that you've noticed, Lenora?
Well, I think they really like peace and kindness. I think, they once they start talking about it, what is kindness, they come up with some great ideas of how they show kindness in every day, not how grown-ups can do it or other things that might be a good idea, but literally what they did that day, how they helped somebody that day. And they become more aware of it then when we send them home, and they send them home for a week, and then they come back and share more about what their kindness was. The body is a really great lesson plan, and that could go for 20 weeks really, because there's so much you could dive into, but our 6-week plan covers things that are super interesting and useful for kids, not adults necessarily, but kids, not explaining how the circulatory system works and playing games with the names of the bones and trying to find them on a skeleton and trying to find them on themselves, and just bringing it to life, making a set of lungs out of a balloon in a jar, and seeing how the lungs actually work, and then exploring that with activities that will challenge your lungs. So you kind of get a hands-on idea of that. So the reason that we have themes like that, and why we have different curricula in a theme, we have like a planting seeds for spring, we have peace and peacemakers and things like that. We have an Earth Day. And the reason is that you can't just keep, I mean, you can, but we don't think you want to keep just going through the same things each week. Kids want some new stuff as well. And this way, if you have some kid who's been in your yoga classes for 2 years and they know all the poses and all that, and then somebody brand new comes in, we don't want that new person to feel like they're behind. It's not a progression necessarily. I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So you all come in on the same level. And to this 6-week period, we're going to learn about space or whatever it might be. And then they're all starting from the beginning together. And they're also not, we're also not redundant. They're not doing exactly what they did the last session. So it keeps them interested as well.
So themes are super valuable. We love to use stories or books in our units. And a lot of times, rather than just sitting through a story and turning the page by page, we add in yoga poses that will go with that story. So the kids aren't just sitting. They may have been sitting all day long. So now they're getting a chance to get up and be creative. And maybe for the story we're reading, there's not a specific yoga pose. We turn that around and ask the kids, well, what could you do with your body that demonstrates what we just read about? And they are the most creative and imaginative creatures out there, because we've done ogre pose and we've done apple pose and we've done 100 different poses that their creativity has brought about. We almost always have some type of breath practice, but it's usually really short. So here, let's try one. Everybody sit up nice and tall, put your feet flat on the floor, and we're going to take a deep breath in. So breathe in as deep as you can. Take another deep breath. One more, and blow it out. Okay, now this time when we get up to the top of that breath, we're going to imagine the most beautiful place we've ever seen. And then when we blow our breath out, we're going to imagine that we're sliding down a sliding board. Are you ready? Here we go. Deep breath in. Another one. One more. Imagine that beautiful place. Can you see it? And blow it out. And then we'll ask them, how did that make you feel? What did you notice when you were doing that practice? With kids, especially middle school and high schoolers, I find that preschoolers are open to anything. They love to try new things. But as kids get older, I think we get lots more buy-in when they notice that there was a change, that they feel different or better. And so when we come back around after we do these activities and ask them, well, what did you notice? How did you feel? What emotions did you have? Then we can get some real buy-in for kids that maybe have never had the opportunity to do a yoga practice. So after the breath, we do some movement. We love to include lots of what we call yoga games that are working on patience or cooperation or team building or kindness. We can bring all of those skills into games and crafts. always ending with a relaxation and then some way of closing our class so the kids come to expect these opening and closings as the beginning and end of our classes. Anything you want to add, Lenora?
No, I think the class plan is great. It doesn't limit anything because you don't have to have every single one of those and you don't have to have it in that order, but we have seen that the kids come to expect a certain flow of things. So if we don't have oh, God forbid we don't have a game. I mean, you don't do that because what's our game going to be? But say we didn't have a craft that week or something like that, make sure that you have something else, some other kind of activity to fill it. But it doesn't, like, if that class plan to you looks like it inhibits you in any way, that's okay. You're welcome to just, throw it out and make some new. But we find that having these, whatever, like 8 or so items in the class will help keep it moving at the right pace. We go from kind of high energy to mid energy to low energy to back to mid, back to high, back and forth. And everything lasts like less than what, like 6 minutes? I mean, in an hour class. So nothing nothing is happening for too long for anybody to get too restless. And that's kind of the key to teaching, excuse me, to teaching children. Um, is keeping an eye on your class, keeping an eye on your plan, but not being so committed to it that you can't see that it's going wrong. If you start with a book and nobody's paying attention to the book and everybody's got their mind on something else, then it's best to let that go, read the room and move on to something else, something that gets everybody much more involved. So the class plan is a great way to start. You know that way that you have plenty to fill the class, because sometimes you get through half a class and it's like, well, that's all I had planned. Never do that. Always have way more planned that you can pull out of your back pocket. So it's flexible enough that everybody gets to be their own self as when they're the teacher, but it's organized enough that we can help you think of new things to do if you're stuck on an idea.
And most kids' yoga classes, I mean, could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, but very seldom longer than an hour, unless
Mhm.
you're trying to fill some niche within the school schedule or something. Most yoga classes, I always feel like for me that 45 minutes is about perfect.
Yeah.
An hour starts to feel a little bit long, 30 minutes feels a little bit short. So, but sometimes you have constraints within the type of program that you're working with.
Mhm.
All right. So here's another example of an activity we might do. It would be in the game craft category. And we would have everybody get out a piece of paper and we would ask them to take 5 minutes to draw a picture of a superhero that could change the world. And we want them to give that superhero a name and their superpower and draw a picture of them doing whatever this superpower is. And this is so much fun. We give them about 5 minutes um, to draw their picture, maybe 10 if they're older kids and are into a lot of details. But it is so interesting to hear some of the ideas that kids come up with. One that I particularly remember was uh, their superpower was dropping love bombs on the world as they flew around the world so that everybody would love each other. And I can't remember the name of their superhero. It was probably the love hero, but it was super cute. So this would be a good example of a game or an activity.
And if you wanted to, for littler kids, you could give them a little outline of a person, like a gingerbread cookie type outline, and they can go from there rather than drawing the whole thing. Because if you're dealing with preschoolers or kindergartens, you may not know what that is. And then of course you just say, well, tell me about your picture, Johnny. But I don't know if you said it or if I just missed it, but making sure that this picture is you as a superhero.
Yes.
So, my superhero is Lenora doing, some superpower. We're not giving it away to somebody else. It's theirs. It's their person. So, they can even give their superhero their own name. So, but it's really fun. It's a fun one, and it gets people thinking. And then they can do superhero pose, which is pretty much lotus, I guess, with arms forward. But anyhow, they can have a pose that goes with it,
Or they can make up their own superhero
or
pose,
they can make up their own.
which is fun too, because they're very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I went too fast. So in yoga, we teach breath awareness with a variety of different kinds of breaths. But again, our breath practices, 5 minutes probably at the most is plenty of breath work for kids. And we know that the breath is super helpful in regulating the nervous system. What I do want to remind everybody is that so often when we watch a lot of television, we're on our phones all the time, we're on computers 6, 7 hours a day, our nervous systems become elevated as a new norm. So I've had a lot of teachers tell me that the kids didn't react to breath work. It didn't make any difference at all. Well, of course, it's not going to the first time. It may not happen the second time. They may not even feel any change the third or fourth time because their nervous systems are up here. And we're trying to bring them down here to a different level of activity. So with all of kids yoga, it's stair steps in getting this awareness built because they may not have ever had a nervous system that was in a calm state. We teach body awareness, which is so important. And I've noticed some kids, probably some adults too, where parts of your body are even offline. You don't even have an awareness of them. So with kids, we may actually have them touch their arms when we're talking about relaxing our shoulders. Or we might have them rub their legs if we're talking about a relaxation, tense and release body awareness practice. But it's really important to know where our bodies are in space and how they feel. So this is just some statistics and things that yoga can help with. I'm going to see if I can move our pictures up a little bit. The numbers of kids with depression is rising. 9.7% of 3 to 17-year-olds. 1 in 8 children suffer with an anxiety disorder. 18% of children 0 to 11 years have been prescribed prescription drugs. And between 2017 and 2021, teen suicide rates climbed 62%. And these are all issues that yoga can address through different tools and techniques that we use in yoga, through breathing, through learning about our body and moving and eating healthily, by doing practices that work on focus and emotional regulation, being aware of our emotions. So all of these are lifelong skills that if kids learn when they're young, will benefit them down the road. Oops, skipped another one. So in our training, These are all the activities that we're going to cover. We're Yoga Alliance certified. So if you happen to be a yoga teacher and you want to get the certification, it is a 95-hour Yoga Alliance certified training. Right now, we're going to be offering module 1, but following that is module 2. And then in order to receive the whole certification, there are some teaching hours that you need to do, which are available through Peaceful Warriors. And Lenora, they just apply with you to do those training hours if that was something they were interested in.
Yes, if it's something, I mean, most people do want to get going with it. Most people don't take the training and then just let it go. So most of them want to come, and we offer observation hours in some of the classes. Some of the schools or settings may not allow for that. You know, they may not just let people in to do that, but many of them do. So you have chances to observe teaching kids yoga classes, and then move into assisting in teaching the class, and then doing observed teaching. So you get a chance to teach, and we can um, kind of, observe you and give you some feedback on that. And that's part of the 95 hours, but it's also just part of getting your toes wet and find out if this is something that's right for you. It seems daunting sometimes to people that once they get the training, they don't know what to do with it, but Peaceful Warrior fills that gap completely because we have all the opportunities that you could want. And even if you decide kids are not the thing for you, the training still works for you in many other areas. I mean, maybe it's with your own kids, maybe it's, in a future scenario that you have with kids at a camp, or, in a Sunday school or whatever it might be. But we also have those opportunities to begin branching out into other communities, such as the senior community, and people with different disabilities who would love to have yoga and stuff like that. So it's a great experience. You can just email. I'll send you a list of what's going on. Tell me what you want to be part of.
So in the class, we'll go over class planning, child development, different ways, creative ways to use yoga with kids, like we talked about, games and songs and activities. We'll talk about storytelling yoga. We'll delve into trauma-informed yoga practices with kids. You'll get some chance to actually teach some classes within our workshop. And then at the very end, we talk a little bit about the business of yoga. So again, our training is 2 different weekends, March 9th through 11th and March 16th through 18th. And until March 1st, we have that early bird special that is in effect. And today, we'll be picking somebody to receive a $250 scholarship. So that's a little incentive there. All
A
right,
little thing
Lenore.
about hang on one second. A little thing about the schedule is that we have changed it up. It was an intensive before, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day. And we found that by the end of that, we were all really exhausted, although it was really fun. But we've changed the hours and the days in the hopes that it will make more people's schedules easier. So we have 2 Saturdays in the evening, afternoon, evening, for 4 hours. That's online. Two Mondays, same thing, after hours, online. And then one Sunday, I'm sorry, 2 Sundays, one week and then the next, which are full days, and that's in person. So we get a chance to do some study on your own, more relaxed in your own environment. And then we gather the first week and the second week for a full day on Sunday to do much more hands-on stuff and much more communicating with each other.
And if you can't make that, we'll record it, or you could Zoom in, and it's just will be way more fun if you can come in person because is super fun to connect with other people and to play yoga together. All right, Lenore, you want to give us an example of a closing activity? You have your singing bowl.
Well, sure. I don't know how it sounds on Zoom. So if it
And
sounds bad, just mute it and pretend you're listening to a beautiful singing bowl. But one of the activities we do would be a mindfulness activity, which is good for calming. It's good for closing, but it's also good right in the middle of class when everybody gets out of hand. So this is a mindfulness activity. That means paying attention to one thing at a time. We often talk about how distracted we get, like who's bothering me, she's poking me, she's blah, 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 right in school. I can't concentrate, I'm distracted. Well, that's true. It is distracting. Our life is distracting, but when we teach kids to listen to just one thing and to listen really hard, you'd be amazed at how quiet the class gets and how interested they are, how they all lean in so they can listen to the bell till the very, very, very last minute, last second, and get that last little vibration in. And that's how we explain that that's mindfulness. All the other things that were going on earlier, they just disappeared from your mind because you were so focused on one thing. And that shows what your mind can do when you put your mind to it. Okay, so this would be our single bell, just listening. I don't know if you can hear, but it's still going here. And then we can have them try playing the bowl, if that's, especially older kids, but even little kids, if you find an easy bowl to play like this one, little kids might get it after just a couple of tries.
they will sit really quiet, waiting their turn to try the bowl and being focused on the sound while somebody else is doing that activity. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
especially in a smaller group, or if you have two bells or another thing that makes a nice noise, a chime or whatever, they'll they'll try and take turns with it. Um, so it's good for sharing. This is Medi Teddy. He's another one of my tools. He came today with his own mat, and Medi Teddy is a toy that little kids really enjoy. We put him in different poses. He's a yogi, and he has arthritic joints. I don't know if you can hear it on here, but and so he goes into different poses, and then we have to do them. So we pass him around the room. Everybody has to put him into a different pose. It doesn't have to be a yoga pose. It could just be a shape. And of course, some kids will put him in a pose that you couldn't possibly get in yourself. But, that's going to happen. That's okay. But it gets everybody participating. They get to think about things. They get to play with the teddy bear, and they don't realize that they're doing a lot of good yoga poses and getting a lot of exercise.
So registration is open now. Again, we'll get 32 hours of training on those 2 weeks. And if you decide to do module 2 with us, it's another 32 hours that's involved. We'll learn about poses. We'll learn ways to play yoga. We'll learn how to bring mindfulness and meditation to kids in a developmentally appropriate way. We'll learn what it means to work with different age groups. So we'll look at how you would teach preschoolers and elementary school age and middle school and high school. We'll look at all those different aspects and how they're each different and what is developmentally appropriate for each of those age groups. We'll
And we
learn.
usually finish, I'm sorry, I
No,
just
that's
want to
okay.
throw in families as well. At the one of our activities, one of our events at our yoga teacher training is on probably our last Sunday, that we offer a community yoga class for families. And so training teachers can invite their families, their friends, whoever, and get a chance to practice. But family yoga is, becoming something that's really valuable. Family time, something they can do together, something that's healthy, that everyone can do, and it's affordable. So we like to stress that, families are another group that needs yoga.
We'll talk about breath practices and you'll actually get some practice working with students in that family class, which is super fun. It's always one of our fun activities. Whoever is there in the training that day teaches just one little segment of the class, so there's no pressure. You plan one activity that you get to do with everybody. So again, you're going to get, you'll have lifetime access to our online module, which coordinates with module 1 and module 2. So if you need to go back and review, you always have access to that. You have access to the Omtastic membership site, where we have a storehouse of activities and games you'll never want for anything to do in your classes. You can go on there and pull out a great yoga game or a breath or a meditation that you can use if you don't have one that you've already planned. So it saves lots of time in planning for kids' yoga classes. You'll get that instruction both in person and online. You'll have access to our Storytime Yoga training module, and you'll get one of our lesson plans, the My Amazing Body lesson plan training that we'll do afterwards, not right during that training because we won't have enough time. So you get all of that with this training. And on top of that, if you sign up before March 1st, it's $600, or you can break it into 3 payments if that helps out. And then later today, we'll do a drawing for people that were here to get that $250 scholarship. So I hope you guys will consider this opportunity. It is a great tool and so beneficial for kids, no matter where you're working with them, or even if they're just in your own home. Bringing yoga to kids will hopefully support them throughout their lifetime. Any closing words, Lenora?
No, I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to watch this webinar. It's I just want to say, if you have your doubts about it, this is the time to jump in and give it a try. We have the scholarship drawing, we have possible scholarships through Peaceful Warriors if you want to come and be on our, on our team and make that up with volunteer hours and things like that. It makes it a little financially easier. And our prices have not gone up in quite some time. And I just wanted to really quickly say that prices out there for this, a training such as this, especially one that's accredited by Yoga Alliance, are typically a lot more money. And ours is not cheaper because it's not as good, because in fact, it is as good. It's probably better. But ours is cheaper because, as you can see, we're not a big corporation. We don't spend all of our money on advertising. We don't have an overhead at the moment. We work in different locations. We have nice relationships with all the yoga studios around us, so we are able to rent spaces for our trainings and such. So the reason, that it's cheaper is because we have a lot less expenses. And if you're thinking about this, this would be a great time. This is a good time. We don't offer the training in person too often. I'd say we're down to maybe once a year. And so this is kind of the opportunity coming up in March. We've made it as accessible as possible, as schedule friendly as possible, as affordable as possible. So please come and join us.
Thanks for being here. Hope to connect with you guys soon. If you have any questions, reach out via Facebook or through our webpage. Email is always a great option, and we'll be glad to give you some more information. Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks.